and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Angie and I'm a chemist who loves makeup. So today we are going to be talking about a sunscreen company that has received a warning letter from the FDA, which basically means that they are on the verge of being shut down by the government. So I'm going to try to use that as a teaching tool to explain how a company that produces sunscreen would get shut down and what the FDA is looking for when they are evaluating if you should be allowed to produce sunscreen, as well as other products that are considered OTC drugs. In the US, sunscreens are regulated as OTC drugs because they are used for the prevention of skin cancer. Therefore, the FDA has strict guidelines on the manufacturing of the product and what ingredients are allowed to be used to call this a sunscreen. And I think going through this warning letter might also be useful because it may actually give us an idea of what they might be expecting out of MOCRA once the GMP guidelines that are going to come out of MOCRA are actually put into place. If you want to learn more about MOCRA, I did make a video. I will link it up there and down below. The company that received this warning letter is called Mr. Lulu, and this was particularly because they are producing these sunscreen drops. I believe they're like an SPF 32 is what the bottle said. Based on what I'm seeing, it seems like they may have been manufactured in someone's home, which seems very questionable for a sunscreen. That's why I said this is going to just kind of be an exercise on what to look for. I don't even know if we could consider this a super legitimate brand or not. So based on me telling you that, I think it might be pretty obvious as to why they're probably getting shut down, but we're just going to go through this exercise because I think it's a good example of what the FDA is looking for. And I will link the warning letter down below in its entirety if you would like to look at it. So getting into the warning letter, the initial inspection of this company occurred from November 30th, 2022 to December 9th, 2022. Based on my experience, that's a pretty long time for an inspection, which is probably because they kept finding things. And the FDA issued a 483. A 483 is issued when the FDA does these inspections and they find major issues or a lot of little issues, and that they have decided that this is significant enough. The company is then required to respond to this 483 with all of their plans of action on how to rectify all the findings that the FDA had. So the plans that the company suggested to the FDA were considered inadequate, and then that's why this warning letter came about. So the FDA says that they cited major GMP violations, and therefore the product is considered adulterated. So for a couple of definitions, GMP is good manufacturing practices. These are standards that can be set forth by the FDA that are guidelines that you should follow when you are manufacturing a specific product, in this case, sunscreens. And adulterated means that the product is not what it says it is. It has been contaminated and is not safe for use. So one big thing they cite is that there was not lab testing done to ensure that this product met final quality specifications, including the identity and the strength of the active ingredient, which is going to be the titanium dioxide and the zinc oxide. All this has to be done prior to release of the product on the market. There was no assay testing, which is testing for the concentration of the active ingredients, and no microbial testing. The only things that they seemed to test were scent, appearance. This testing was not documented anywhere, and there were no procedures in place to instruct testing and release requirements. If you did watch my MOCRA video, you'll probably remember how I mentioned documentation is so important. It did not happen if you did not write it down. That is the theme. It did not happen if you did not write it down. They also did not test the ingredients that were going into these products prior to making the products. Specifically, they called out identity testing. So when you do identity testing, there are basically tests to confirm that that ingredient you're putting in is what it says it is. If it's a specific compound, it may just be a simple little color test, running them on some instrumentation. This is probably the most important test because that means that ingredient is what it says it is. There was also no vetting of any of these ingredients. They did not vet the supplier. There was also not any vetting of the raw material, the ingredient that was being supplied. When you get your ingredients, they typically give you something, it's called a certificate of analysis, also called a C of A, and it tells you all the testing they performed and that it met all the requirements of the testing, but it is not best practice to trust those results. So this means that you need to get this tested for all the things on there to make sure it meets those requirements by an outside lab. That's how you vet your suppliers. Next, they were also using food grade titanium dioxide. So this is where OTC things get a little bit different. So particularly you'll have food grade, which has different tests that will be performed to make sure it's safe, whatnot. But for drug manufacturing, typically you use something that is USP grade. USP is United States Pharmacopoeia. They are an independent organization and they establish a lot of testing guidelines, testing procedures, for ingredients that go into drug products, as well as actual products themselves, what should be tested. On a side note, USP is also verifying supplements. So if you see this little logo, that means it is USP verified and has been verified to meet all of their standards, because there's not a lot of regulation in the supplement industry. So this is how you know that they had to meet the requirements of USP. So because they are putting this into a drug product, it needs to be USP grade. Now, that food grade one may be capable of meeting all the requirements of the USP one, but maybe the testing just wasn't performed. But it has to be USP grade in order to put it in drug products. So the next thing that the FDA warning letter pointed out is that there are no written procedures for the manufacturing process or process controls to ensure that this product can be consistently reproduced and meets the standards that they say that it does. They also failed to produce any production records or control records, which is a big deal. This means that they don't have any records of this stuff being made. That's a huge problem. And like I said, if it wasn't written, it didn't happen. They're also mentioned, specifically they point out there was no process validation. So for process validation, you're basically proving that you can produce the same product over and over again with the same quality standards and safety standards. It's basically the equivalent if you were to give someone your recipe and tell them to make it in your kitchen with the equipment that you had, that they could produce it over and over again based on the directions that you gave them. And no one should be able to tell the difference between the different batches that are made. And of course, this has to be documented. The next one is equipment qualification and cleaning validation. So these tests ensure that the equipment is capable of being used what you intend to use it for, and the cleaning validation ensures that you can clean everything adequately to make sure there's not any microbial growth left over or residual product that could potentially contaminate batches that you're making afterwards, potentially of a different product, a different shade, etc. So batch production records. So they were unable to produce a batch production record. This means that there is no record of how they made this product, when they made this product, and the steps that they followed to make this product. So we don't know if these products were made the same every single time. So next it states that the quality control unit failed to exercise its responsibility to ensure that the drug products manufacturer met CGMP. CGMP is just current, so current good manufacturing practices, and to meet established specifications for identity, purity, strength, and quality. So basically, they don't have a quality department. That is the main problem here. There was no production records issue, and there's also not stability testing done. So if there's no stability testing, that means that they cannot actually confirm that that expiration date is accurate. You don't know if the product is effective and good and safe in the lifespan of the product that is on there. Next, the FDA also recommended getting a consultant. This is very, very, very common if you get a 483. I'm pretty sure pretty regularly companies that get 483s get a consultant in order to prevent being shut down and getting a warning letter. The consultant is going to help walk you through what you need to do to get the FDA off your back. So also according to the warning letter, it did say that it appears the mixer is also used for personal use, so probably for like food prep, which that could be a major problem because you could have allergen cross-contamination. So it appears this manufacturer has said that they will no longer be manufacturing drugs, aka sunscreens. I don't know if they produce their other products at the same location. I'm not sure. But they do have other products that are available that are not drugs. So I think that this is a good reminder to make sure that you buy from reputable places as best as you can. So for instance, some red flags I saw on this website is that it says that it's chemical free, which nothing is chemical free, everything is a chemical, so that's an automatic red flag for me. And I hope that you guys learned something today about what is expected out of manufacturing facilities that produce products to consumers. Let me know down below what you learned today, and with that, I will see you in my next video.